Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Immigrant podcast. I'm so excited to do this again. And I'm going to start by saying special thanks to God for the opportunity to always do this. I've got an amazing guest on the show. She's somebody I really admire and I respect what she's been doing for the community. A lot has changed in the cyberspace in the last 10 years. It's been an evolving space for a long time, but we've seen some accelerated growth in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And I believe that the internet has created a lot of opportunities for people in the last 6, 7, 10 years. And those opportunities are still coming up. However, the larger the opportunities we are seeing, I believe that the more we need to be conscious with the fact that we need to protect and manage those assets in the cyberspace. So I've got an expert that's going to talk to us about cybersecurity, especially from the angle of a business owner and how she's supporting small business owners to manage that space, to protect their assets. And we are also going to look into the future, what cybersecurity is going to be like in the next 5, 10 years. Maybe we are going to talk about artificial intelligence and a whole lot more. So I've got an expert. She's a cybersecurity expert. She's now a business owner. And I'm so excited to introduce my guest, Ruth, popularly called Ruth Hay, but the full name is Ruth Aliu. Welcome, Ruth, to the Thriving Immigrant podcast.
Thank you so much, Paul, for having me.
All right. So let's go straight into it. Are you an immigrant?
Yes, I am an immigrant.
Okay, because I checked your profile, it looks like you've been here for a long time. And do you want to share your immigration story?
Oh, absolutely. I've been in Canada for 11 plus years. I moved to Canada in 2013 to do my master's at Concordia University. It was a very cool day. Imagine someone landing in Canada on January the 2nd after a major snowstorm from the holidays. I feel like it was a rude awakening. But yes, landed, did my master's at Concordia for about 2 years, and I've been here ever since, growing in my field as a cybersecurity and compliance expert, and now the owner of Techity Consulting.
Okay, I forgot to mention your company. Yes. So Ruth is the founder of Techity Consulting. Thank you for making that story very short. So Concordia University is in Montreal, correct?
Yes, it is in Montreal.
So do you speak French?
No, Concordia and McGill were the two universities that offer English courses. So
Okay.
even though I was in Montreal, that is a French bilingual speaking city, our courses were delivered in English.
Oh, awesome. So at some point you left Montreal to
Yes. To
Ontario.
Ontario, exactly.
Okay. So you came as an international student, then got your work permit, became a PR. No,
Yes.
obviously you're now a citizen.
Yeah, so I did the entire path, the entire trajectory. And I was just thinking about it this morning that unlike most immigrant stories, I got picked up at the airport. I had seen my room virtually on Skype. So a friend of mine had already put me onto Kijiji and said, okay, Ruth, look at rooms. I did Skype with my landlord. My landlord sent like a taxi driver to come and pick me from the airport. So I did not have the typical path of, going to an Airbnb in a hotel. Like I was chauffeured to my accommodation, paid my rent. And then like where I was staying for, I think for the first 6 months was far, but like 30 minutes metro ride. But then I moved downtown and I did the rest of my education there. And I think the community I built during school has really formed who I am today in
Oh,
many ways.
beautiful. That's very inspiring to hear. Like I love the fact that you mentioned that the community that you formed during school has really helped you. Okay, so you've been in Canada for over a decade. Do you think anything has changed between the time that you moved in 2013 and now, or I don't know if you've observed any changes?
So much has changed. The exchange rate was
The exchange rate.
150 naira to a dollar when I landed in 2013. So when I see the exchange rate of like Canadian to naira to be like 1,000, I can't wrap my head around it.
Hmm.
And also, like I think the dollar was like the USD to Canadian was 1 to 1. So it was a space where I worked 2 jobs in school and I was able to pay my rent and do other things like travel
Conveniently.
a bunch of things with like my 2 school jobs. But I would say like now, 11 years later, that cannot do anything. Even in Montreal, that is, less expensive than Ottawa, less expensive than Ontario itself. Things have definitely evolved. Governments have definitely evolved. Policies have definitely evolved because then like I was the first batch of express entry. It was very, it picked you 6 months later, you got your PR, like, and because I had the Canadian education, I had the Canadian work experience, it was a relatively hitch-free process. So I would say even the immigration policies and the path to permanent residence has evolved. And I don't think I'm even in touch with what that looks like anymore. I would also say like the boom in cybersecurity between when I did that in school and now has changed significantly. When I finished from my master's, we were all of us like in my program, we're all hustling for like the few English speaking companies in Montreal, like to get a job with. And now it's every other firm has some form of IT security role, infrastructure security role that people can plug into. And like the different fields have expanded. So I'll say those are a few things that I have personally observed over the last 11 years.
Okay, good. That's good to know. I was speaking with someone yesterday. It's because you said that you've not even been able to, you are no longer in tune with what's going on with the immigration policies and
It
all
changes
that.
too much as well. Like it changes so much as well.
Yeah, it changes a lot. It's a very fast-paced space.
Yes,
And sometimes people back in Nigeria will be the one updating me about the policies. And they expect that because you are in Canada, you should know these things. But I always tell them that something that is not on your goal list, you may not even understand it. You might
absolutely.
even be living in that space, but
Mhm.
because it's not something you're looking for. So everybody has a goal. Like in my own case right now, I'm no longer interested in moving to Canada. So I'm not so conscious about the policies. If I see them in the news, fine, but I don't go the extra mile to start doing research. So when
Absolutely.
people come and say, so I think the conversation was, I was telling someone that if you come to Ontario, you're not going to enjoy free healthcare instantly. Like it will take you like 3 months. Then they said, no, that has changed. I'm sure you're hearing that for the first time too.
I think I know that it's now 6 months, but even maybe that information is dated too.
I
I'm
think
talking
it's
about
instantly
2020.
now. From what I gathered yesterday, the lady was
Oh,
saying
I
that,
think it
oh,
was because of COVID. I think COVID brought that change. So I
yeah.
didn't know that they did not revert it after COVID. But I remember during COVID, a temporary measure was people having instant access to healthcare.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how I know that information.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'm particularly interested in your story because you are in a very lucrative space. And I know that you've you've worked with organizations over the last, I don't know how many years, but at some point you decided to transition into entrepreneurship. So I'm really curious, why entrepreneurship for you? Why did you choose to leave your regular 9 to 5? And how has it been?
Thank you for that question. I would say that I used to be that person that said, I don't do business. I'm a 9 to 5 person. I'm not an entrepreneur person. I think there are people in this life that are just supposed to be employees and people that have a destiny of being entrepreneurs. And that was me for a very long time. And so I think one thing the pandemic did was I think a lot of people's goals, mindsets really got reoriented, as a result of the pandemic. And for myself as well, I had seen that a bunch of my friends that were business owners had to quickly pivot their business models. So moving from in-person customer experience to trying to figure out how to still serve people online, curbside pickup, appointment scheduling online, just alternate ways of contactless, service delivery, product delivery. And then I started getting questions from my friends. They say, hey, do you know any software that does this? Do you know a way we can set this up? Is there a way I can set up a Shopify store? Is there a way? And I started getting all those questions. And because of the nature, I don't know about you, but you know how you're the person that knows like all the computer things, and family and friends just come to you to say, even if you don't know it, I know that if you Google it, you will figure it out and like translate it to me in a language that I can understand. And so I continued just to do that. I remember my one of my mentors said, "This phone you're always pressing, this laptop you're always on, why don't you just incorporate a business?" I
Mm.
remember that day was a Sunday. I was at my desk and I
Mm.
just went online to like Canada.ca, like how to incorporate a business, and incorporated my business May 9, 2021. I cannot tell you that I had a plan
A
of
roadmap.
what's like but I have learned, I kind of know the way things work with me, where there's just some things where I identify a moment and I just register or apply and then figure out the details later. And that's exactly what happened. Went online, incorporated my business, and then started figuring out like what my service offering was going to look like. And then after I set that up, I found out about Digital Main Streets that, they help set up free online stores for like home-based businesses. I reached out to them. They helped me set up like my website for free. So I did not pay a dime for that because I think that was a way of Ontario trying to serve the businesses as a result of the pandemic. And
Mm.
then after that, I applied for like a starter company program here in Ottawa with Invest Ottawa, where you had the opportunity to get $5,000 for your business. And that's why I learned all the things about how to have a business plan, how to have cash flow forecast, how to define your service of all of those things. I learned it in the course of that program. I got the grants, and that was like my startup costs, buying software, paying for website costs, things like that. But I did all of this while still working a 9 to 5. So incorporated May 2021, but I was still working my 9 to 5, at the organization I was working at. I moved to another job. I was still combining it, but I will not say I was serious about it. It was very like, if something came up, fine. If something did not come up, like I was getting my salary every 2 weeks, I couldn't be bothered.
Right.
So, and then 2022, 2023, we started seeing a lot of like layoff stories in the tech industry where it wasn't about expertise, it wasn't about what you brought to the table. A lot of companies were kind of now recovering from like post-pandemic, like pandemic and then post-pandemic realities. And as a result of that, people were now realizing that they overhired or, they don't have the resources to be able to employ as many people. And I will say that in May 2023, I think exactly 2 years after I incorporated my business, I was impacted by one of those layoffs. So it's not about having cybersecurity or the experience. It's just that, with the economy and the way things are, it was just a business decision that I was impacted by. But I'm so grateful that I already had Techity Consulting to fall back to. So I did not have the thing about, oh, woe betide me, or I need to kind of go back into the workforce. What if they lay me off again? I had Techity Consulting to switch to and focus on it for a season while I try to figure out what I wanted to do next. So I would say that I stumbled into full-time entrepreneurship entirely by accident. And I don't think I truly appreciated the value of like what I offered until I became consistent with it, because I feel like a lot of people are very overwhelmed with technology and just think that this thing is over my head. I will never learn it. I will never understand it. And for me, I'm like, you can learn it, you can understand it. You just have not met the right person that can put you through that, or you have not found the right tools that work best for your business. So I would say that is how I came into entrepreneurship full time. And then I can say in the last 1.5 years of doing it full time, I think it was the best decision I ever made because I've had time to really build a network. I constantly I'm always networking with people because as a service-based business, it's not a product where people can just go online and shop. Service-based business, people want to kind of make you get a sense of like the values of your business, how you fit into their business model. And over time, I'm learning what that looks like and constantly refining our service offerings to match what people need. Rather than throwing solutions at them, I'm listening to them and ensuring that I'm giving them the services that they need. I don't know if that answered the question, but yeah, that's how I am here.
Wow, that's quite profound. Like, I didn't want you to stop. There's a lot I learned from your story, this short story. And of course, I know you must be proud of yourself, and I'm proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I, I I've been in business too for quite a while, and I've listened to different stories. And I think one of the things I've come to realize is that just start. You can't figure the whole journey. You can't figure it out, but just start. When you start, you are going to figure it out. Like, I'm sure there are people that were affected by the layoffs too. And at that time, they didn't even know what to do. And I'm really happy that you're sharing this story because I know that, and I love your vulnerability, like talking about it, like it's not as if you woke up, you were tired, and just say, you know what, let me try my thing. You're just being honest. It was by accident, which is very inspiring. So congratulations to you for starting, for incorporating your business 2 years before you really needed it. Well, I'm sure you learned a lot within those 2 years, and it was really easy for you to just pivot and start doing your thing. And the future is bright. Okay. So I was going to ask you because you work with small business owners, and I know how small business owners reason. They are always after profit. And I don't blame them. Or let me say they're always after cash flow because it's a tough space, especially in Canada because of our unique, there are some unique factors that make businesses a little bit tough in Canada, even though the government is trying their best. But when it comes to, when you look at the population, I feel like that population is a disadvantage.
Mm,
For Canada, when it comes to business, it's a game of numbers. If you don't find yourself in the environment that has the numbers, you are going to, it might be stressful.
absolutely.
Yeah. So you can have a business in Canada and somebody else has the same business in just, let's say New York, for example.
Mhm.
The person may not even need to spend so much money on ads. The leads keep flowing. Or we can even take it back to Nigeria. Like somebody has a business in Lagos, maybe a consumable business that the population is there, they can buy, and you have your own business in Ottawa. Ottawa is like a million population. And because we are Black, out of that large population, we represent maybe 20 or 30% of the entire population. And the people that want to buy your product or that want to do business with you are likely to be people that look like you. So it's tough for business owners. So when you relate with them, you see that some of them they're not interested in other things apart from things that can make them money right away. And what you sell is kind of abstract or
Yeah,
intangible, but tangible. It's tangible and intangible. But people
absolutely.
don't appreciate it until they become a victim.
Yeah.
So how do you have that conversations with your clients? How do you put them in that position of awareness that, well, you're making money, but this is how we can help you? Because I know businesses that don't even have websites. So they finally get their website. You're now talking to them about cybersecurity. Like, please, you don't know what's going on. So how do you have those conversations?
Thank you for that question. And it's very rare to like have a conversation with someone that just gets small business owners and solopreneurs. And I think that is one of the reasons why, even though I'm a cybersecurity expert, I don't always wear that hat in my business because I recognize where small business owner as like in their businesses. As somebody that also started as a small business and is still technically a small business and wearing so many hats, I understand that, like you said, there anything that is not a revenue generating activity or venture, they don't want to hear it. So I would say for me, if we go back to how I shared my story about how I started my business, where I was offering solutions for how people could set up their businesses online, set up an online presence. That is the value I bring to the table. And I will always say, when it comes to setting up your business online, you do not have to spend a lot of money. There are a lot of free and low cost options that are available for you to get started with. And then when there's the revenue and everything coming in, then you can scale to a paid version that gives you everything you need. So, for example, if it's a product based business, how do people know about your products? And in our community, we know people that use something as simple as WhatsApp business,
Yeah.
where you cannot say, oh, I don't know where to start. WhatsApp business is free. There's Google Business Profile. Have you set up your Google Business Profile? If I search for African food products near me, do you have a profile that has those keywords that will make you pop up? Because it's not a function of you having a website. It's a function of, can I find you and how can I contact you to get the things that you offer? So every time people use money as a reason for not like automating their businesses or using technology to make their processes easier, I'm always ready to counter that and say, no, that is incorrect. Here are some tools you can get started with. And just going back to what you said about websites, I am not of the school of thought that a website should be top of a new entrepreneur's like mind. Not of that school of thought, because I feel like it's such a website requires you having website copy and you figuring out, how do I want to present my business? How do I want to position my business? And as you know, it's an evolving conversation. Even myself, depending on the day, I look at my, like what I'm offering, I'm like, does it really communicate the value? And when people really, do they understand what that looks like? So I come about it from two places. So for new businesses, here are tools and software that you can use to set up your businesses, like for simpler business processes, technology that can help you in generating more revenue for faster growth. Existing businesses, assessing, okay, what do you currently have, right? Because most small businesses don't have a big tech stack. They're very simplified people. They probably have a business email, they have a website or a landing page that shows people all of their services. They probably have a database of their customers and their leads. Their tech stack is not this big, audacious thing. But then how I come about it is that right now, if you get compromised, your laptop gets compromised, how soon can you come back online? If your WhatsApp business gets hacked, is there another way that people can contact you? So I bring it from very real life scenarios. I'm not bringing some abstract arbitrary thing. If you remember 2 years ago, we had a Rogers outage where so for people that had both phone and internet with Rogers, that was it for them.
Yeah, that was it's
2020.
that was
Yes.
2022. It
Yes.
was
June, July.
July. That
Yeah.
was the point when I realized how we've really how life has evolved and how our lives have become so dependent on technology. It didn't make sense to me. I was driving from Waterloo to Ottawa that
Yeah.
day, and my Google Map didn't work. Then I realized that I couldn't even drive without Google Map. And I was like, for real? ATMs were not working.
Yes.
Nothing was working. Like our lives are just so dependent on technology.
Absolutely.
And that was when my wife had to switch to Bell because we were all on Rogers. And like, no, this doesn't make sense.
We
Internet's
need,
on
we need a
Rogers.
redundant
But
option. We need a
yeah,
redundant option to fall back to. So I
yeah,
always, when you ask me about how do I introduce cybersecurity conversations, I bring it from a place of redundancy. What's your backup measure? If your website goes down today, what is the plan? How else can people reach you? How else can people access you? Do you have somebody on standby? Do you know who your hosting provider is? You know that a lot of small businesses, just because they are not, I think they think that they're not tech savvy. And I believe that anybody can be tech savvy. It's just a function of who introduced you to it and how did that person set you up for success. So a lot
absolutely.
of small businesses have all of these tools that somebody has set up for them, but they do not know what any of that means. What do you mean when I say who's hosting your website? Ruth, I don't know what
What
you're
do you
talking
mean?
about. What hosting? How? I said,
Oh,
I need to log in. Like without you telling me, I can't log in to help you. Where do you have your email with me? I don't know. I log in here and I log. So I'm not asking you to know all of the things. I'm asking the core things that are key to your business. how to log into the admin interface of your website, how to log in to change a DNS record or anything, like core things, just like intellectual property. Those are things that small businesses need to know. And so like those are the different, I feel like I've talked about it in multiple directions, but I bring it from a value day-to-day thing because I am also in their shoes. So it's easy for me not to talk above their heads and say, girl, I get it. I get it that like on the list of things that you're worried about, this is not even like your top 5. But when you are ready, here is how setting this up will help with this. So.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I love how you went into different scenarios and it makes sense. It shows that you've actually been having this conversation maybe every day with your customers. And it's something that I really appreciate because as a tech person, I work with a lot of tech people. They are always here. They know their stuff, but they don't know how to communicate it.
I struggled with it. I struggled with it for a long time. I feel like it's in the last year or 2, I've started speaking the language that my customers understand. I remember when I first launched my website and I sent to my friend, she said, it looks good, but I don't know what any of this means. Because I'm so used to technical jargon, because that's all I've been surrounded with my entire career, my community. I've never had to talk to somebody that has no idea. What do you mean by email marketing? What do you mean that I need to be sending newsletters? Like, what was that? Like, why is that important? Why can't I go to my regular Gmail and send something? Why should I get a custom business email instead of using like my at gmail.com? And saying that in a way that is clear to them, like brand reputation, professional, from a place of professionalism, so that people cannot like pretend to be you. It's in the last year or 2 that I started understanding that language. And even with that, I still think that I can still do better because it's a conditioning of many years. And then to a point of saying, if you cannot explain, and I think that's something my dad taught me, if you cannot explain something to someone in simple language, that means you probably don't understand it as well as you think you do.
That's quite deep.
Yeah. If you are talking the tech and they're telling you, I don't understand, and you're not able to break it further down,
you're probably the problem.
Yeah, not you said it. I'm not saying you have a problem. Is that when I think that they talk, they say like explain like I'm 5, explain like I'm 5, explain like I'm a 6-year-old, and if you're not able to come down to that level and give analogies for people to quickly like, I get it, then there's still work to be done, and I feel like I continue to work on that for myself and for Techity Consulting.
Beautiful. That's a very good one. I love how you are self-aware and you are working on yourself. And the kind of people that you serve, truly, they need more of your soft skills than your technical skills.
Absolutely.
So they need you to be able to communicate, proper presentation, and identifying their pain points, and I'll let them know how you can solve it. So the technical part is for you to, they don't really need it. Yeah. Okay. Loving the conversation so far. So thank you for sharing all that. The cyberspace is growing at an exponential rate. And with, I don't want to use the word AI evolution because AI has been here for a while, but suddenly everything does change. I think in the last 2 years, ChatGPT has been my G. GPT has been my guy. Shout out to OpenAI and everyone involved. So we are seeing a new trend in the industry where more opportunities will be created in that space. I've spoken to people that make millions of dollars without having a physical store. I've spoken to people that live in one cubicle. I don't want to use the word cubicle, but where you can't even find them, as long as they have access to internet, they are controlling incredible amounts of money. So what should business owners be thinking about, especially when they are looking at tapping into these opportunities when we talk about protection and managing that cyberspace? What do you think? That's the first question. And secondly, do you think there will always be a need for cybersecurity experts or professionals for not just small businesses, but across all the industries?
No, thank you for that question. I would say that AI has helped so many people do things that they did not think they could do. Because depending on the way you put your prompts, is able to say, here is how you get started. And instead of coming like having a blank canvas, you have a place to start and build your ideas off. And I'm so happy about like just this evolution of things where you may not know all the things, but it's like, at least I have this and I can start. And the more I grow into this, I can get better with it. And I think for your first question, where I think we talked about like the cybersecurity, like just the cybersecurity landscape in general, I would say that it has never been more needed because AI models are trained.
Hmm.
So it is, I don't, maybe garbage in, garbage out. It is the data it is trained on that is what it is going to give to you. And so if somebody compromises that training, the training, the data that it is used to train on, it can be used for malicious purposes.
Yeah.
And so cybersecurity has never been more important to ensuring that the guidelines are surrounding how they are set up, how they're maintained, so that people continue to like get valuable information. And if you see now, even with ChatGPT, they are all putting disclaimers that sometimes will give you incorrect answers or inaccurate answers, right? Because they do not want to be held liable for you getting information from there. You say, oh, it's ChatGPT. They say, please do. It's
It's
not,
not
it's not,
me.
it's not me. It is based on information that I know. And I think that I love the way that even like our standard tools that we're used to are all incorporating AI. And I remember I did a video when like ChatGPT was all the rave. I said that I predict that the tools that we love will start integrating AI into it. So you don't have to like go outside of them to like leverage say ChatGPT. So if you think about it, for instance, Google, for example, they now have Gemini right within Google Workspace. If you people with Windows computers now have the Copilot just by your side there. So you can either chat with it, it can write a blog post for you. So a lot of tools are now incorporating it right within it. My concern with it integrated is that they turn it on by default.
Hmm.
So people are not aware of, okay, if it's turned on by default, does that mean like my private information gets trained with this information? What are the limitations of what is going to be extracted from this? And that is where
Yeah.
cybersecurity experts come in, where we're constantly looking at these changes and saying, this updates people brought, the way it is set up, that means they can take this, they can take this, they can take this. And so it is them speaking out that then pushes the companies to be more responsible with how they introduce these new features. If you think about it, no new AI feature, you just wake up one day and just see it like there. You don't have the option of opting in. They're just
Right.
like, think you need it. So cybersecurity experts are there to say, they brought in this new policy. Let's go and assess to see if there are any vulnerabilities with the way this was implemented.
Hmm.
For example, I'm not sure if you heard, for instance, Zoom, for example, Zoom had that problem when they set up AI Companion. It
Yeah.
was automatic, and people were like, what do you mean you're summarizing my meetings? People that deal with people's personal identifiable information, people that deal with people's personal health information, those are red flags for them because there's a way they have to handle that type of information. And it
That's
being
right.
stored in servers and data centers they have no idea about. It's a problem. There are organizations that have to have their data here in Canada. They can work with businesses that have their servers maybe in Europe or in Asia. They have to have it domiciled in North America. So having cybersecurity experts that are constantly, even for myself, when I'm talking with a client, it's a function of, okay, are there any regulations or compliance requirements for the business that you do, so that we're ensuring that the tools and the software you're choosing is in line with those compliance requirements. So I would say that I think I've touched in both of your questions, but I'm excited for the way where AI is going, because even in cybersecurity and even in software development, we're seeing AI being introduced where AI is writing a lot of code now, where it's like, okay, GitHub Copilot, for example, I want to do this, do this, do that. It writes the code, but the developer has that knowledge to be able to review it, tinker around with it. So while AI is fantastic and can do some things automated on its own, I don't think we're quite there where it will not need some human intervention or human oversight to be able to like fully depend on it.
Thank you. I love how you touch on all the points, and at some point you were going to become a lecturer. You were really showing your passion about cybersecurity. But that was very enlightening. So thank you for sharing that. And just like you said, AI has been a game changer. It has created opportunities. My only concern or my only fear is I think, and this I might be wrong, but I just feel like we might end up raising mentally lazy generation. Like the next generation might just be not as I don't want to say that they should go through the same stress that we've gone through, but I just feel like some things require you to think before you find the answers. Like I have two boys. When they get stuck at anything, they just say, "Hey Alexa, what's what's anything?" And Alexa is always there to answer. And I'm like, when I was your age, if I had this kind of question or something I wanted to really understand, I may just try to think about it. If I'm unable to get it, I may now start asking maybe elders around me. Or even questions that me, I don't know. These children, hey, Alexa, what's this? Alexa just opens her mouth and says, it's this. So with the evolution of AI, I'm afraid that I don't know the name of generation coming after Gen. I don't know what Gen.
I don't even know the way it's currently set up. I'm always so lost.
I
I
don't know
don't know
what Gen they
for
are.
each of them. I think Gen Alpha, because right now I think we're at Gen Alpha. I don't know the
Okay,
people after Gen Alpha. I
but
have no idea.
right. But it's okay. It's still it's an innovation and it has really helped us. I think you guys will come up with controls and see how
Oh
we can
yeah,
use it better.
controls are coming out, and I think they're constantly. The government of Canada has this model that they implemented for, not implemented, that they give as a guidance for using AI systems. It's called the FASTER model.
Okay, I haven't heard about that
So
before.
FASTER model, I hope I remember what like each word means. So FASTER, is it fair? Is it accountable? Is it secure? Is it transparent? Is it educative? I can't remember what the R is, but they give guidelines for, okay, before you bring this tool into it, into
Hmm.
to be used in the government in some capacity. Is it, are there
Does it
regulations?
meet those
Does it
requirements?
meet those requirements? I'm not saying it's an all-inclusive one, but it's something that I easily just share with people when they're thinking about, oh, I heard that there's this new AI that cuts videos. I heard that there's this one. It's so easy to jump on so many of them, but I'm
Hmm.
always telling people, please do not put your personal information in AI, in AI tools. Please put like information that if they get compromised, you'll be comfortable with that information being public.
Yeah,
So don't put client information, don't put your financial numbers, exactly. Be careful about doing that, and also trust but verify. Because
right.
I feel like there's an over dependence in AI that has removed that. It has already written it for me. But we also know that there's a way AI writes that is funny. So
Yeah.
also training it to also speak in your own
No,
voice, that over time is beginning to learn how you speak, your value system, and it's your prompts. So it's over
your
time, it begins
prompt
to speak like you. But for a lot of times you read something, you're like, this thing was AI generated now.
said, yeah.
Help me now. Let's
Abba,
work together, bar.
Abba, you can do better.
You can do better. There's a way you'd have written this prompt. I would not have known that it's AI that you used, right? So, but I feel like people are learning that as well. So
Yeah.
people are learning that, based on feedback, based on, the analytics, people are learning that and tweaking their messaging accordingly.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you raised. It's been a very wonderful conversation with you. I'm loving it. Looks like I can go another 2 hours. But I just want to ask like maybe one or two more questions, then
All
we
good.
can wrap it up. So if we're gonna start your business all over with what you know now, what would you do differently?
I think while it was great that I just started, I wish I spent more time developing structure.
Hmm.
Because the thing about technical people is that we are good at advising people. Do it like this, do it like this. But we ourselves, we're a work in progress. And so I wish I built more systems. So for example, I'm in a space in my business where I'm leveraging like the opportunity to hire students. And then in course of the hiring, like the person that currently works with me, you have to set up systems for them to succeed.
Right.
Set up standard operating processes. Okay, if somebody books a call with Techity Consulting, what does
What do
that
you
work look like? Do you have that documented somewhere? But I would say that I don't think I'll beat myself up because it was just myself. It was in my head, but I wish I was building. I had that long-term mindset when I started. But like I said, it was a happy accident and I'm really just going with the wave. So I'll say that's one thing. Spending more time building systems, structure, documenting processes, documenting like my knowledge base of, oh, I work with this client and they had this issue. If I bring somebody else that would probably serve them, can they find that information like in our knowledge base? So that will be one. And I think number two will be revenue in terms of like cash when it comes to finances. I'm not it's not my area of expertise in any way. So I wish I brought like my bookkeeper in early
Hmm.
because then because it's just like, oh, I'm not making any money, but like initially if I'd done that from the beginning I would have known the possibilities of and then planning accordingly, having revenue goals. I don't think I quite had revenue goals. Like when I first started, it was just like, let's just see if people are going to like jump on it. So like having that long-term strategy mindset, okay, what do you want to see Techity by this? So that when an opportunity comes that matches with that goal, you're able to click it and apply for it. Because I don't know about you, sometimes we just self-sabotage and say, we're not there in our business, so please,
Yeah.
I don't want to apply for that. But when you've had that long-term mindset, I see this, I see this, I see this, when you see an opportunity that looks like that, even though you're not going to get into that program because you're not qualified, you've built a network, they have you in their database, you would hear from them. And so I think one thing I've learned is that failure is, I think I am now embracing the art of failing fast.
Yes.
It's just that, for instance, I did something recently, and I told the person working with me that I just want to try this out to see if it doesn't work. That's okay, but I would not know if I don't try.
Try.
So
Hmm.
that is something I'm learning rather than, oh, when we get to this point in the business, then we'll do this. It's like now that nobody's really knowing us like that, let's try
This is
this
the time to
different options,
experiment.
this different steps and experiment. So I wish I gave myself more boldness to experiment and fail fast. But I'm in a point now where I'm easily doing that. I was like, oh, okay, that did not work. Great. And not dwelling on that and continue to evolve with, the demands of what people need.
Beautiful. That's very, very, that's, I was going to ask you something, but I think you've answered it with this one. So thank you for sharing that. It's good to experiment, honestly, because I I applied for something like a grant. And talking about grants, one of the beautiful things about grants in this part of the world is if you don't get it, they likely give you feedback. So they let you know what, if you really want to know why, they probably will tell you why. So which will help you to prepare for the next one.
Yeah.
But if you don't try, like the one I recently applied for, the only way I will get that grant is by God's grace. But I just because you said they have your name in their database, I just wanted to like, let me just try. And if they call me, awesome. If they don't, at least I know that yes, I've tried and I will know what I need to improve upon the next time I'm applying. So that's a very powerful one that you
I wanted to
shared.
share a story in that line. I had applied for an accelerator early this year.
Okay.
I had no business applying for that. Not really, I had no business. Like accelerators are typically for like tech-enabled startups. So if you
Hmm.
start, not a startup, I don't have a tech product. I'm a service-based business, but I applied anyway. The interview was supposed to be in Toronto, but I was not in Ontario. I'd already booked a flight for somewhere else, but I changed my flights and cut my trip short where I was and flew into Toronto for that interview. I did not get the spot, but I got a hiring grant.
Hmm.
I would never have gotten the hiring grant
If you had not applied.
if I'd not take a chance on myself to apply because now they know about my business. Now I'm getting their emails and newsletters about what is upcoming. Now I probably will get invited for one of their events,
Probably.
right? But I would not have been able to get into that ecosystem if I hadn't applied.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that story. Makes sense. I'm sure that's inspiring someone listening to us right now. Thank you, Ruth. My last question would be, you've talked on a lot of things. It's when you are listening to yourself again that you'll be like, oh, did I say all this? Uh, I was gonna ask you your the most powerful piece of advice that you've ever received, apart from the one your dad told you that if you cannot explain it to a 5-year-old in a way that you understand, then you need to, if there's any other advice that one piece of advice that you think has really helped you.
I'm thinking of I'm a huge fan of Brené Brown.
Okay.
She's a well-known TED speaker. She talks about the art of vulnerability, talks about a lot of things. And there's this quote. I'm going to look it up because I do not have it off the top of my head, but it's something that has really guided, how I look about a lot of things. I think Theodore Roosevelt. Let me get that now. Yeah, the man is from a speech by Theodore Roosevelt called "The Man in the Arena." And I'm just
Hmm.
going to read it. And I think it's a great way for us to close our conversation. It's a part of it says, it's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you'd have heard just from our conversation today, you would have seen elements of that, like in my story, where it's like afraid of failure, embarrassment. Let's
Let's
at least I'm in
continue.
the arena putting in the work.
Yeah.
At least I'm in the arena putting in the work. And it's easy to say, especially if it's not doing it, we're poking fingers and criticizing things. But oh yeah, if it's easy, do them.
Uh,
Enter the arena and see how easy that really is. And so I'm learning to extend grace to people and not judging people from the highlights we see on social media because you are not in the arena. You do not know what that feels like.
hmm.
So yeah,
Wow. 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 Thank you, Ruth. I would
you're
have loved
welcome.
to just end it here, but I wanted to ask you if you're accepting new clients, what services do you offer? I have a lot of small business owners in my community, and I think they probably want to do something. They need your help. Not like they want to do something, they need your help.
All good. So we are across all social media, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Threads, everywhere, Techity Consulting. We're at a point where I've changed, not really changed my service model because I found that service, just saying small businesses was too wide. And so we're trying out a new niche of focusing on coaches, consultants, and e-commerce businesses. And so, but even with that, helping them to audit their tech to say, okay, what's your current tech stack? Is it working for the way your business model is? And how can we optimize and make this better? People that have websites, helping them with maintaining that because people just set up websites and just leave it there. And then one day this is down. I did not know it was down. Do you have someone that has eyes on your website? So website maintenance, website integrations with like third-party solutions, like with AI, having a chatbot on your website, things like that. Anything that you're doing manually in your business that you're just like there's a workaround here we help like with setting up automation or reducing the amount of manual work that people do. If you want to launch a project, you want to launch a course, we help you set up what that onboarding workflow looks like with the right tools and the right systems. So I think that's a bunch of the services that we offer. And yes, we're accepting new clients. We recently changed our website copy. So now, like if people go to our website, it clearly communicates and people will be able to see themselves like in the messaging that we currently have there because we're really passionate about not just helping businesses leverage tech for faster growth, but also empowering them with the knowledge that they need to also live, to use tech confidently.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being our guests. We've had, I'm sure you will agree with me that we've had an amazing conversation. We've had a very great conversation with Ruth of Techity Consult. She's she's a professional, she's an expert in that space. Thank you so much. Ruth, for coming. Thank you for being a thriving immigrant. And thank you for helping small business owners and for letting your light shine.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone, for tuning in. And till I come your way again, stay thriving.